On the 21st of January 1506, 150 Swiss mercenaries marched into Rome at the specific request of Pope Julius II, who sought his own private army. Through this act, the Pontifical Swiss Guard was founded, and they are now the oldest serving military body in the world. Some 31 years later, in 1537, the forebears of the Honourable Artillery Company received a charter from King Henry VIII, establishing them as the second longest-serving military body. These two units have prospered and developed, writing their own proud pages of history, with little or no real contact between them until quite recently. On the 6th of May each year, the Swiss Guard's new recruits are sworn in during an age-old ceremony normally held in the San Damaso courtyard within the Vatican. As 2006 marks the 500th anniversary of their formation, special celebrations were arranged in May to mark this historic milestone. And by papal command, they were held in St. Peter's Square to enable the whole world to share in this special day. For reasons that will be explained later, an invitation was extended for the Company of Pikemen Musketeers of the Honourable Artillery Company to join in these celebrations, and to parade with the Pontifical Swiss Guard as a very practical demonstration of their recently formed bond of friendship.
It really all happened in 2003, June, when the HAC went over to Boston, where we have a daughter-sister regiment called the Ancient Honourable Artillery Company, and we met with Colonel Elmer Almeida, who commands the Swiss Guard. And this all happened because he'd been invited to attend what the Ancient Honourable Artillery Company call their June Day Parade. It's the first Monday in June, and he was invited out as a guest, and that's how we came to meet him. He then saw the Pikemen Musketeers marching and met with them, and obviously liked what he saw. And the uniform is not the same, but we do have ostrich feathers, and we have helmets or morions and armour and so on. So he liked the look of us, let's put it that way.
The Swiss Guard officially assumed papal defence duties on the 22nd of January 1506. At that time, Helvetian mercenaries were world famous for their courage and loyalty. Pope Julius II knew of these qualities and sent for Swiss troops following an agreement with Swiss cantons to supply a permanent guard. The Swiss Guard's most desperate action was 21 years later, on the 6th of May 1527, during the sack of Rome by Spanish and German troops. 147 guardsmen were killed in a defensive rearguard action that allowed Pope Clement VII to escape from the Vatican by way of a secret tunnel to the Castel Sant'Angelo. This date, which in 1527 was a day of death, today has become a symbol of hope and new life, as it is on this day each year the new recruits swear their solemn oath of loyalty. The forebears of the HAC were incorporated by letters patent granted by Henry VIII in 1537. 469 years later, they are still providing excellent service to the sovereign and the nation as the oldest regiment in the British Army and the most senior volunteer regiment. There is an interesting parallel to be drawn in that the Swiss Guard were invited to Rome in 1506 to protect Pope Julius II and restore order in the Vatican. Similarly, the HAC were drafted in to restore order in the Gordon riots in 1780. The repeal of certain penal statutes against Roman Catholics caused rioting in London, and the then Lord Mayor, Brackley Kennet, used a large contingent from the artillery company for his personal protection. The regiment has experienced a number of transformations over the years, but has always maintained close associations with the city and the Crown. The uniforms worn by the Company of Pikemen Musketeers are very close to the pattern worn in 1637.
An organisation which is heading fast for 500 years must be enormously impressed by another organisation, the Papal Swiss Guard, which is this year celebrating its 500 years. And I think it's also particularly appropriate that we're here at a time when recently the European Union has expanded. So it is that however much we pay tribute to that practical demonstration of visiting each other's countries, coming together for a common cause must be right. And one of the points I'd like to make as a former commanding officer is that whilst you will see from these vignettes of our activities and celebration in Rome, this regiment, the Honourable Artillery Company, has provided and continues to provide members of its regiment in Iraq and other active duties overseas. This is an important regiment, part of the British forces, the oldest regiment in the British Army.
Our thoughts indeed go out to the soldiers from many countries serving in Iraq. Those of us who travel to Rome will have read perhaps in the Italian papers of a tragic death of Italian servicemen in Iraq. And yesterday there was a very moving service which combined the funeral of a major, an Italian parachutist, with the baptism of his two children. This was an extremely moving combination of tragedy and hope. So we think also of our Italian friends as we are in Rome, who are serving with us in Iraq. Many British soldiers are now deployed in Iraq and in Afghanistan, also serving in the Balkans and Northern Ireland. So as we have a wonderful and jolly time here, we remember many of our colleagues and also many of my colleagues as chaplains who are now serving on operational tour. And that we can rejoice and have fun together is partly because we work together in serious times as well as fun times. And this is a holiday in a way, but it's also a reminder of the many years of distinguished service of the Swiss Guard and the fact they have fought as well as acted as sentries here in defence of the Holy Father.
Well, the experience of serving in the Swiss Guard is an experience that young Swiss men, after their basic training in the Swiss Army, would like to make. And they serve for at least 2 years, take this experience and go back to Switzerland. Be it a security service in Switzerland, be it the old profession that they learn, but they go back with this spirit and they are somehow ambassadors of the church. And I think this is a good chance for Switzerland. Of course, the Honourable Artillery Company has an average age which is far higher. They kept the military experience in their core. We have to start every year again with our training. The Honourable Artillery Company of London as guests with us is a very important moment for us because it's a second ancient military, still existing military company. And it shows that we divide the spirit of serving, the spirit that is still needed today, maybe even more than before.
Preparations for the 6th of May parade in Rome began well ahead of the event itself, both behind the scenes as well as out on the parade ground.
I'm Alistair Bassett-Cross. I'm the Elder Sergeant of the Company of Pikemen Musketeers. That is, in today's parlance, the Sergeant Major. I have responsibility for organising and running the parades under the direct command of the captain. The purpose of these series of drill evenings, which we've been running since January, is to hone the skills that the pikemen have already. A parade such as is going to occur in Rome will have the eyes of the world upon it, and it is very important that the company shows its excellence, and the purpose of the drill evenings is to give that effect.
Logistics are one of the biggest problems I have. Each trip is different. This particular trip, we encountered all sorts of regulations within Italy. We started off by having to have a police escort from the border, which we were going to have to pay for. We ended up hiring a removal truck, which came part of the way on the train because of the restrictions we have within Europe driving at the weekends. We would never have got here without the other guys as part of the Q team. Been a huge amount of preparation in the stores, refurbishing uniforms, checking the weapons, the packing up operation and the loading all takes manpower. And I think a lot of the people don't see the guys who are doing this. They're beavering away behind the scenes. It's a bit like an anthill. You have to take the top off to look underneath and see what's happening. One of the things about this visit is that we are taking more people abroad than we've ever taken before by quite a large margin. We have 71 people here in Rome with us. The largest number we've taken anywhere before is about 45. So the increase in quantity of armour, uniforms, weapons has been on a different scale to anything we've been used to before.
It is impressive that over 70 members of the Company of Pikemen Musketeers, as well as the regimental band and corps of drums, were able to rise to the occasion and meet this invitation to join the Swiss Guard in their celebrations. What is equally impressive is that in addition to these, over 700 other members, family, friends and guests travelled with them to lend support and encouragement, all at their own expense. It was once said that an army marches on its stomach. This was never truer than with the HAC. On the first evening, a welcome supper was organised for the 800-strong HAC contingent. For many, this was a wonderful opportunity to wind back the clock and renew old acquaintanceships. And not surprisingly, the odd drink was taken. Those who attended the first sitting were then able to go on to the Paul VI Concert Hall in the Vatican to enjoy a superb musical evening given by the Swiss Army Concert Band. They were joined early in the programme by the band of the Pontifical Swiss Guard, who made a stirring entrance from the back of the hall. They then joined the Swiss Army Concert Band on stage to accompany them. The Swiss Army Concert Band is the Swiss Army's exhibition band, and as such it is the premier ensemble in Swiss military music. The band was formed in 1995, and it comprises professional musicians who perform their military service in this unit. Their director of music is Major Christoph Walter. The audience was delighted when Sir James Galway and his charming wife, Lady Jean Galway, made a special guest appearance to play several pieces with the concert band. This wonderful hall, situated within the Vatican, can hold 8,000 people. It is officially known as the Paul VI Hall, so named after the pontiff who officiated at its opening in 1971. It was designed by the famous Italian architect Pierluigi Nervi, and so it is equally well known as the Nervi Hall.
HAC members, countrymen, lend me your ears.
There was a predominantly egalitarian approach to the trip, but the logistics of moving 1,000 people around one of the busiest capitals in Europe decreed that some would, by necessity, be more equal than others. Captains were appointed at the 4 hotels used to impart useful tips on transport and feeding arrangements at the daily morning prayers meeting. Stalwart individuals were chosen for their ability to absorb the abuse which inevitably follows sticking your head above the parapet in the HAC. After a sustaining breakfast, the company turned its attention to retrieving their equipment from the quartermaster's stores, set up in one of the hotel's conference rooms. One or two individuals took the opportunity to select equipment that was a better fit than the item that had left London.
That means no swearing on it. That's right.
All right, Chris, thank you very much for that.
It was mentioned earlier that in the year 1506, 150 Swiss mercenaries marched to Rome to form the Pope's private army. As part of the 500th anniversary celebrations, around 70 former Swiss Guards followed in the footsteps of the first troops walking over the Alps and down into the boot of Italy to arrive in Rome on the 4th of May. Troops from the active Swiss Guard, accompanied by the Swiss Guard band, took up position to receive the veterans in the Piazza del Popolo, along with a host of dignitaries, including Vatican officials, a delegation from the Italian armed forces, the mayor of the city of Boston, and the Swiss president, Moritz Leuenberger. The marchers, aged from 25 to 76 years, set out from the town of Bellinzona in Switzerland on the 7th of April, and have marched 720 kilometres along the old pilgrim route, known as the Via Francigena, into the centre of Rome. The marchers received warm applause along the way to their final destination and averaged 30 kilometres a day with just one full day's rest during the trek. Little is known about the hardships faced by the first Swiss Guards during their trek to Rome in the dead of winter half a millennium ago. But their 21st century counterparts certainly did not suffer in the same way. They had the advantage of high-tech hiking gear and were accompanied by 2 doctors and an ambulance. Colonel Mader was one of many who paid tribute to the veterans' comradeship and perseverance.
Back, gentlemen, so that we know when we have spare seats at the front, please. Thank you very much.
Undoubtedly, one of the greatest highlights of the regiment's visit to Rome was the grand reception in the grounds of the British residence at Villa Volkowski. Sir Ivor Roberts, Her Majesty's ambassador in Rome, was gracious enough to offer his residence as a suitable venue for the party. This splendid villa became the ambassador's official residence in 1947 and takes its name from Princess Zanaida Volkowski, the wife of an aide-de-camp to Tsar Alexander I, who built the first villa on this site in 1830. It was her descendants, the Camaraderie family, who built the villa we see today. The Company of Pikemen Musketeers lined the sweeping driveway as the guests arrived and set a suitably dignified tone for a wonderful party. The evening culminated in the very British ceremony of beating retreat.
Drums by the centre! Quick, march!
The HAC is unique in that it has an establishment for a full staff band and a corps of drums, and this privilege reflects the regiment's high ceremonial commitment. The Corps of Drums, like their regular army counterparts, are primarily highly trained soldiers with a full operational role supporting the Sabre squadrons. They then become doubly valuable in providing that special drum and flute music that soldiers have marched to for centuries. The band is made up of a mixture of former musicians from the great state bands within the army, such as the Guards and the Artillery, but also has homegrown talent in its ranks as well. The director of music, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Watts, was the director of the Grenadier Guards Band before joining the HAC band. And so, as the shadows deepen, sunset and retreat draws the festivities at the British residence to a close. The drum major sought and received permission from the Colonel Commandant and the Ambassador to march the band and drums off parade to the regimental quick march, the British Grenadiers. And the appreciative crowd demonstrated their approval by clapping along as they disappeared into the darkness. Another day, another breakfast, and another opportunity for management to change the format of the parade. As any HAC person will tell you, all orders in this regiment are followed by the magic letters LTC, liable to change. And change they did, giving rise to a number of impromptu rehearsals in the car park of the hotel. To the amusement of onlookers, the company demonstrated its skill at carrying imaginary weapons, a task that some found easy, others not so.
Gentlemen, a word from our medical coordinator, who, unbeknown to you last night, had a close look at you as you came off parade. She reckoned one or two were looking past their sell-by date, and she's asked me to pass on this advice to you. Tonight, and the rest of today, if you're out and about in the town, keep off the alcohol, and tonight, take it easy, but it's down to you to make sure that you are sensible today.
The Swiss Guard were most kind in throwing open their barracks to allow the HAC party to see how they lived and to watch them at work, preparing for the big parade. The wine and beer flowed, and many took the opportunity to sit a while and to reflect on the momentous fact that a predominantly Protestant regiment was here in the most Catholic of enclaves.
A very special anniversary, 500 years of the Swiss Guard. In the Basilica tomorrow there will be a Mass on the 500th anniversary of the starting of the building of it. A double anniversary, I think. So we have much to celebrate in history. Quite special for us, I suppose, tomorrow, because many of us who have come here from England would be Anglican, will be joining in a predominantly Catholic service. Of course, His Holiness the Pope would be preeminently the head of the Catholic Church. It's a great delight for us as Anglicans and of those from other religious traditions to join together in this very special service tomorrow.
Well, there is that wonderful phrase, I suppose all cliches are true, that's why they're cliches, all roads lead to Rome. And here we are in Rome, the centre of this astonishing worldwide faith. But when everyone talks about faith, it talks about values, and also we talk about how you stand up for the values. And today we are remembering 140 members of the Swiss Guard who died, and died protecting their Pope. And in faith there is an element of being prepared to die for it. The resurrection, crucifixion was about dying for faith. And ministering as I do in an army context for the Honourable Artillery Company, I'm aware that we have people across the world in the regiment serving on operations. Really what they're serving for is being prepared to stand up for truth, law and order, protection of faith, and being prepared to die for it. So that's a crucial bit. I think there's the amazing thing of being in Rome. It is an astonishing city. There's also the loveliness of being with the whole regiment. I think we've the largest numbers we've been anywhere. And what I do love about being a chaplain in the British Army, particularly to the Honourable Artillery Company, I'm the chaplain for everybody, regardless of their faith. But somehow in Rome, you feel this all faiths lead to Rome. And that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And to see the things that you know from textbooks, from school books, from telly, here is the Vatican. And we are tomorrow going to see the Pope celebrating. Amazing. I mean, it is fascinating that Henry VIII, because of his own marital difficulties, and also wanted to control the church, he was the man who gave us our charter. He was the man who, in a sense, founded us. And I think particularly for me, ministering as I do in the parish church of Chelsea Old Church, which St. Thomas More actually worshipped in, we have a statue of him. Here am I thinking, this is history in the making. And I suppose, what I like to feel, history in the repairing.
I have to say, there's great excitement. There's a feeling that we are making history. We're taking part in something that is bigger than anything we've ever taken part in before. People are really geared up now to produce their very best on the day, and I'm hoping that they will feel, as I do, the honour of the whole occasion is worth all the effort that we've put into getting here, getting our kit out here, getting it polished up, being ready for the parade. think it is a remarkable ecumenical coming together, and I applaud it. I'm very pleased to see us taking part in this event.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of the Swiss Guard, it is a great honor for us to have you here. I didn't think that so many of you would come when we met 3 years ago in Boston, first with the Honourable Artillery Company of London. You were about 200 over there, and I thought more than 200 there wouldn't be, but it's incredible how many of you have come to Rome. Thank you very much. It's really a great honor, and I know now why you are the Honourable. We have the idea came up to have the most ancient companies, still existing companies, military companies, all together once. When we were in Boston, the commanders were there. But now, the Honourable Artillery Company of London, the ancient and Honourable Artillery Company of Massachusetts, and even the Guardia Real, Spain, have come to Rome to come together for our Jubilee year. This is not the only reason that they have all come, but the reason is that we have a common thinking. We all believe that it is needed, that it is necessary to serve. And we are not serving anybody, but we are serving our ideas, our state. And this is the common feeling that we have. We are all, in our heart, soldiers that like to serve. We are usually not giving our swords out of our hands. It's too dangerous. But if our good friends come to Rome, we would show you that we have confidence in you, that you are our friends, and we would like to share beautiful moments with you, and we would like to share with you all our weapons. So let me give you the sword of a Swiss Guard. Commemoration of our
5th Centenary Pontifical Swiss Guard, Honourable Artillery Company, London.
And you all know this trip to Rome wouldn't have been possible without the enthusiastic work of Major Basil Bicknell.
On all our behalves, I'm going to present to Colonel Mader a rather blank piece of paper. This will grow in size, and the artist Julian Barrow is over there looking rather ashamed of himself because he couldn't do it, because it's not happening till tomorrow, but after the 6th of May it will grow in size and we will come back and present you with a proper painting. And now, since the Pikemen Musketeers are doing all the work tomorrow, I'm going to call on the captain, Tony O'Hagan, to say a few words.
Ladies and gentlemen, we all know the story that when Colonel Almeida came to Boston in 2003, he took one look at the Company of Pikemen Musketeers and said they must be on my parade in 2006. And so that he shall not forget the Company of Pikemen Musketeers, we are going to present him with a silver figure of a captain.
The assembled company was then treated to a private viewing of the Sistine Chapel, before descending on an unsuspecting Rome for a free evening.
Tonight and the rest of today, if you're out and about in the town, keep off the alcohol, and tonight, take it easy, but it's down to you to make sure that you are sensible today.
When it was announced that the HAC contingent would be allowed to join the Swiss Guard at the Pontifical Mass being celebrated by Pope Benedict in St. Peter's Basilica, it was a great deal more than the Catholics who decided to get up at 6 a.m. to make the journey into the Vatican. Indeed, a vast majority of the 800-strong delegation decided that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and too good to miss. Despite the early start and the queuing in St. Peter's Square, the memory of that service will stay forever with those who attended. A truly inspirational experience. The Mass was said in French, Italian and German, the three languages used in the various cantons from which the Swiss Guardsmen are recruited.
Ne servent pas un étranger.
Lecture du livre de la sagesse. De génération en génération, la sagesse se transmet à des âmes saintes pour en faire des amis de Dieu et des prophètes.
È stato sempre riconfermato nella sua missione anche nel 1970, quando il servo di Dio Paolo VI sciolse tutti gli altri corpi militari del Vaticano.
In a very practical demonstration of their close link with the Pontiff, 2 Swiss Guardsmen brought the gifts of bread and wine for His Holiness to use in the offertory.
Novi ed eterni testamenti, qui pro vobis et pro multis effundetur, in remissionem peccatorum, hoc facit in meam commemorationem.
We asked the captain of the Company of Pikemen Musketeers what he was looking for in the company's performance at the ceremony.
I have to say, I think steadiness on parade, the ability to stand still, the ability to remain alert to what's going on, listen out for my orders, stand up, not sway about. It's very important, and we've drilled ourselves in the last few months at Armoury House to do our drill and then keep absolutely still. And I'm looking to that as much as anything else. We're not expected to do a lot in St. Peter's Square, and therefore what little we do, which is standing still and reacting to the orders that I may give for salutes, and in particular saluting the Pontiff, saluting the Swiss Guard, is what we do very well, and I'm looking to them to do it best, the best they've ever done.
The company is quite used to parading in front of heads of state, but a distinct air of nervousness pervaded the group before getting on the coaches to travel to the Vatican. The preparation was over. Nothing more could now be done to enhance either the equipment or the drill. The company was about to find out if the endless practice sessions had been enough to ensure that they would be steady on parade and be able to stand still for over 2 hours in the full Roman sunshine and still deliver a credible performance. The HAC band and corps of drums played a number of pieces on the square before the start of the ceremony. All expenses of getting them to Rome were borne by the members of the HAC and supporters, with help from the Carabinieri. As the crowds began to gather in St. Peter's Square, the company sought sanctuary in the Swiss Guard barracks, where final adjustments were made to uniforms and armour. Though somewhat similarly dressed, one did detect a slight age difference between the Pontiff's bodyguard and that of the Lord Mayor of the City of London.
On the Honourable Artillery Company, in 3 ranks, frame a body! Let the officers withdraw to their several stations. Gentlemen of the Company of Pikemen Musketeers of the Honourable Artillery Company, take heed to receive your colour. Advance your pikes! To your left! Gentlemen, to your colour, charge your pikes! Company, advance your pikes!
As the company's existence is authorised by royal warrant, there are only 4 people entitled to sign the orders allowing them to parade, whether it be in Rome or anywhere else. It was remarkable, therefore, that 3 of those 4 were about to inspect the company.
to have the Colonel Commandant here, General Sir Timothy Granville Chapman, and to have the GOC London District, General Sebastian Roberts, and to have the Lord Mayor of London, Sir David Brewer, Alderman David Brewer, must be excellent in underlining the authority that lies behind the parade of the Company of Pikemen Musketeers. The only signature missing, of course, is the Captain General of the Honourable Artillery Company, Her Majesty the Queen.
Gentlemen of the Company of Pikemen Musketeers of the Honourable Artillery Company, take heed to receive the governors of the company. Errant your pikes! General salute! Charge your pikes! My Lord Mayor and Generals, the gentlemen of the Company of Pikemen Musketeers are ready for your inspection.
Captain, thank you very much indeed.
And so, after months of practice in freezing conditions at Armoury House in London, the moment came for the Company of Pikemen and Musketeers to march into a packed St. Peter's Square to play its part in this great ceremony.
Italien. Es ist Armee, Marine, Luftwaffe, Carabinieri, Finanzpolizei, Staatspolizei, Gefängnispolizei und Corpo Forestale.
But we, as a member of the Ancient Honourable Artillery Company, I would like to say that we are honored and privileged to be here and to be the junior member of one of the finest clubs in the world, and that is the three oldest regiments in the world, of the three that have never been out of service. There are 257 of us, both men and wives. There would be approximately 65 of us in the parade. The uniform is actually modeled after the Royal Artillery uniform, the black and the red. And we're, of course, allowed to wear our service ribbons and decorations commensurate with the services that each attended. Personally, I feel it's a tremendous honor to be able to represent our state and our country here in Rome.
Colonel Mader and the senior cardinals await the arrival of the Swiss Guard. And thanks to modern technology and the massive display screens, the assembled crowd was able to see the Swiss Guards leaving their barracks to march on parade.
It is the swearing-in ceremony, which is probably the most important moment in a Swiss Guard's life, because he's swearing fidelity to the Holy Father, to the Pope, and he says also that he, if needed, would even give his life for the Pope. And we were well prepared for this moment, spiritually. Of course, we exercised, but we also spiritually exercised, and so it's a very important moment.
To great applause, each recruit swears his loyalty and pledges to give his life in protecting the pontiff. Each new recruit advances alone, and with his left hand he grasps the guard's standard, holding high his right hand with 3 fingers open, as a symbol of the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. He then confirms the oath. I swear that I will observe faithfully, loyally, and honourably all that has now been read out to me. May God and his saints assist me. The 2 hours on parade swept past with incredible speed, and soon the ceremony was over and the Swiss Guard were making their way out of the square. And the moment for the company's final compliment to them as they pass in quick time. The Company of Pikemen and Musketeers exited the square at a more sedate but no less dignified pace. Having secured their weapons, the company then made their way to the Castel Sant'Angelo, where the Swiss Guard staged an incredible party for all their international guests. Access to the moat gardens was via the pathway that winds gently to the roof of the castle, from which one can enjoy the most breathtaking views of the Eternal City. And so, as the sun went down to the sounds of the regimental band playing in concert, the guests enjoyed the many tempting delights on offer. This superb party was a great lead-in to the culmination of the festivities, the fireworks in St. Peter's Square. For many who watched this wonderfully executed display, it was a surprisingly spiritual and deeply moving experience. Each person formed their own impression of the trip, and each would have their own special highlights. But everyone agreed that it was the most remarkable regimental tour that they had ever experienced, and one that they would not have missed for the world. The Company of Pikemen Musketeers had acquitted themselves well, and were determined to build on this newly formed association with their colleagues in the Pontifical Swiss Guard. For this is no ordinary association. This is now, indeed, a bond of friendship.